Well, welcome to the Aging Boomers. I'm your host, Frank Sampson, and on this show we discuss so many of the issues facing boomers. I'm one of them. Their parents, and of course what we know is an aging population. And so we appreciate all of you. I first want to just thank everybody for joining in and for all your support and all your great comments. And many of you have gone to iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spreaker, or gone right to our website at agingboomers.com. Of course, for those who listen in regularly, you can download for free the Aging Boomers app on your iPhone or Android phone and just keep up to date on all of our shows, which we do each Monday and Friday. So before I introduce our guest today, I'd like to let everybody know that today's show is sponsored by Senior Care Authority, a professional senior placement and elder care management organization that has a national network of advisors to help in determining the right path for seniors in receiving proper care or even supervision. So whether it's in-home care, assisted living, residential, or memory care, get the necessary advice from a senior care advisor in your area by calling Senior Care Authority at 888-809-1231 or go right to their website at seniorcareauthority.com. So we have as our guest today, I'm excited, somebody from Stanford, well-known university here in the Bay Area, School of Medicine, Jeffrey Bernstein, who's a researcher in the Stanford Center for Memory Disorders, Stanford School of Medicine, and the Department of Neurology and Neurological Sciences. Jeffrey manages subject recruitment and carries out research visits with volunteers and patients, as well as working in conjunction with a number of Stanford neurologists and psychologists to interpret and analyze collected data for publication and the benefit of the medical community at large. So, Jeffrey, thanks for joining us on the Aging Boomers.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great to have you. And so tell us more of the goal of the particular group you're in, you work with at the Stanford Center for Memory Disorders. What's the main goal there?
Sure. Well, our group at the Center for Memory Disorders, I work underneath Dr. Jeffrey Kirchner, and the main goal of our research is to generate a cohort of aging people in the population. We look at people across diagnoses, healthy, mildly cognitively impaired, and also people with diagnoses of Alzheimer's disease. And our goal is really to paint a picture of the aging brain. We want to see in healthy people, we want to see what is normal. So we do a whole wide range of data collection to have all this information at our fingertips and then be able to analyze it afterwards.
So the people out there that, all of a sudden they feel they're starting to lose their memory. They might forget to put where their keys are or whatever the case, and they start to panic. You're trying to help determine the difference between maybe what would be normal aging or what could be a disease like Alzheimer's, correct?
That's right. So a lot of people tend to be hypercritical as they age. They tend to think, oh my gosh, I forgot my keys, I must be losing it. But we all know that somebody at age 70 is not as sharp as somebody at age 20. However, some seniors are sharper than others. So we want to know why, what's going on here, what are the differences, and what is normal. Basically with the idea that at some point once we have this portrait of what is normal, we can compare people to that and then see, okay, maybe this is more of a concern or maybe this is just completely normal.
Right. That's interesting. So, maybe if you would talk also about Alzheimer's. I know some of this might be just personal opinion if you're allowed to say it, but I've talked to researchers on the show in the past, and it's all great information. But I just want to make sure that those that are listening that may have a loved one that has been diagnosed with some form of dementia, like Alzheimer's, Lewy body, there's a lot of different types out there, but that there seems to be a general feeling that a cure for Alzheimer's or other related dementias are kind of, we're a long way off from that, okay? But there seems to be more positive feeling about preventing the disease. Can you talk about that all in your research? Are you kind of seeing that thus far, or it's too early to tell in your research?
Well, first off, I would caution you against thinking that the cure is incredibly far off. I mean, there is progress being made in the field every day. And there's tons of researchers out there.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that.
Working on clinical trials, things of that nature, and we have some of those going on at Stanford as well. With our research, our goal is more preventative. We basically we think that changes may be occurring in the brain earlier than when symptoms are shown, and we want to head those off at the pass, maybe through lifestyle changes. Part of our goal in generating this portrait, as we call it, of an individual, is maybe some sort of preventative measure similar to a colonoscopy. Perhaps when you turn 50 or something, you could come in and just like you would get a colonoscopy, you can also have your brain scanned. And then we can see, there are changes here occurring that are maybe in line with dementia further down the road. Let's change some behaviors or possibly provide medication, and then we can stave this off. That's the ultimate end goal of our research, but we're not quite there yet.
That's a great analogy, really, because if someone doesn't go in for their colonoscopy, regardless of symptoms they're having, then it could get pretty serious. But that's a good analogy. So, I know that the main part of what you do is to bring people into the group, into the study, whether they be those that are still have it together pretty well. Who are you trying to reach? Let's promote this, because this is going to help everybody. Talk about who you're trying to reach for these studies.
Sure. Well, right now we're really focused on reaching healthy, normal people who are not impaired. Most of our impaired patients and people who are experiencing some sort of memory trouble, mild as it may be, we encourage them to come to Stanford and to visit a neurologist for a personal visit. And if they fit the profile of somebody for research, then they're referred that way. People in the broader population, we encourage people who are normal, who are not experiencing any trouble. They may have questions, but who are not really focused on personal results for themselves, but are more just interested in helping the community at large through an altruistic spirit.
Is there an age group that you're trying to reach to come do the study?
Generally, the age that we're recruiting right now for our healthy aging study is about in the range of 60 to 90. Mm-hmm. And the reason we look at that group there is changes tend to be occurring between 60 and 90. And that's really what we're interested in, is looking at these changes.
So, I'm thinking about someone that between 60 and 90 feels they have it pretty together, and it's like, hey, no news is good news. Why would I want to go in and do this and maybe get some news that I'm not going to be happy with? So why go in? I'm just being devil's advocate here. How do we get people to deal with that may be crossing their mind?
Well, first of all, we don't give direct news. So if somebody does have that fear that they're going to get some bad news, we won't really provide them with that news. If they come in thinking they're normal and they're testing abnormally, we may encourage them to see a neurologist who could then contextualize it on a personal level. But really, a lot of people who come into our studies usually are the family members or close friends of somebody with a dementia who are coming in with the idea that, maybe I can help as well for preventing this for future people.
That's good.
So it's an altruism.
That's a great point. So what are the different areas you kind of look at? I know that I know people. I deal in this industry. I know people whose mother had Alzheimer's, and right away they think that they're next. So does genetics play a role in this? And what other areas are you looking at as well?
Sure. So genetics definitely plays a role. It's been found that there's a certain gene that is called ApoE. A lot of people are familiar with it. Through our study, we do genotype analysis. So we want to see if people are carriers of the ApoE type 4 allele, which then doesn't necessarily mean somebody is destined to develop dementia, but it puts somebody at a higher risk. And so we use genetic data to contextualize some of our other collected data. In addition to genetics, we're also looking at, we do high-resolution functional and structural MRI, where we're looking at really close, high-resolution structures of the brain and also activity of what's going on in these areas associated with memory as people are engaged in tasks.
Can we go back? Let's go back to the genetic part of it a second. So the
Sure.
example I brought up, someone's mother had Alzheimer's. So it doesn't mean that that adult child is a carrier. They got a chance that they're a carrier, or would they absolutely be a carrier if a parent had the disease?
Well, this goes back to kind of basic genetics. It depends if the mother is a homozygote, meaning she has 2 copies of the ApoE4 allele, or a heterozygote, meaning she has 1 copy. Remember, we get 1 copy of our genes from our dad and 1 from our mom.
Right.
So if the mother is a homozygote, then that means that the child would either be a carrier or a homozygote with the allele.
And how difficult is it to determine that?
It's actually done pretty simply. It's just a genetic assay. I don't personally work with our blood. We give it off to another group in association with the VA. But then it's actually a pretty straightforward process. There were some companies that were doing it commercially, located in the Bay Area, but they've recently encountered some legal trouble, I think, with that. I'm not exactly sure.
So if someone knew that they were a carrier, obviously it just increases their risk, but would you recommend for someone to go get tested now, or are we still premature with that? Because if they were tested and it was positive, then then are there do we have the medications and the know-how yet to help prevent this? So why would someone go in?
Well, personally, I don't think I would recommend somebody to do it at this time. Or if they were to do it, I strongly recommend that they consult somebody called a genetic counselor. So genetic counselors are people who can help contextualize this information. It's something we have to deal with in the research community and in the medical community at large, that people can take information out of context and then let their imaginations run wild, which can then potentially cause them to act irrationally. So we want people to, if they have this kind of information, to have a professional there who can help contextualize it and say, now, slow down, this doesn't necessarily mean you're going to develop any sort of dementia. Because we don't want people to go out and make rash decisions.
Right. So, I mean, I really commend you on the work that you're doing. You got to go in and probably be pretty excited, about the work that you're doing. What part of it does really get you going, hey, this is great stuff? I mean, what part of it gets you going?
Well, gosh, I'm really excited about my research and the work that we do. Right now, we're working on a longitudinal study looking at changes that are occurring in these really small, fine subfields in the hippocampus. That's an area associated with formation of new memories. Using 7 Tesla imaging, which is a very high magnetic field strength, gives us great resolution on the order of about 0.22 by 0.22 millimeters. We're able to see these very small regions of, I guess you could call it network cabling, and how these areas are changing in people as they change in their performance on memory scores on a psychological battery. So we're able to kind of relate things there. We're also doing studies with functional imaging where we're asking people to make associations between things and then seeing how these areas also change there, how the blood flow to these areas changes. And I'm very excited for what that may lead to in the future for not only determining some sort of biomarker, something that could be looked at in the future, but also learning about how memory works in the human brain.
The brain is a pretty complicated, isn't it?
It's, I think, the most complicated thing in the entire universe.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So, people that are listening, how can they learn more about your studies? Is there a website they can go to learn more? Where can they get this information?
Absolutely. Well, our study is advertised out through Trials Match, which is an organization through the Alzheimer's Association. There's also other studies that are used there. It's a great resource for people to look around their local community and see what kind of research is going on. I'd like to just stress that you don't have to be impaired to be involved in research. You can just do it because you want to help the community at large, and we definitely need volunteers.
And how much time of someone would it take? I mean, is it one visit? Is it a few visits? What's involved?
Well, for our study, it's about one full day of research followed by 2 half days. And we're very flexible with how we can schedule people. I like to pride myself on being able to accommodate people. Some people have to come in and stay overnight, and we can do everything within just 2 days. Other people who live in the Bay Area can come whenever's convenient for them, and we just try to work it around their schedule. As a general rule, we try to fit in all the visits within about a 2 to 3 month window. Mm-hmm. But for other studies across the country, I mean, there's all sorts of different designs. With our study, it is also longitudinal. So we ask people, once they're starting to get involved, we'd like to follow them year after year and either have them return to Stanford or just let us keep tabs on them and see if there's been any changes or if they'd like to talk about anything.
So when did the study begin, and how long is it going to go?
The study began back in 2010 when Dr. Kirchner came to Stanford. And the plan is basically we'd like to go at least for the next 5 to 10 years. As with research, funding can come and go. But with our research, we seem to be generating some promising results. So for now, the funding is still there.
So you don't come to any conclusions yet, or even in the period of time that you've been doing it, can you come to some conclusions, or you really wait till it's all, till that another 5-10 years from now?
Well, one of the great things about having all this data that we've collected is we actually can draw conclusions already. Based on some of the information we've collected, we've already been able to publish a few times. Like I talked about earlier, the finding between a correlation between size of certain areas in the brain and how people are performing on testing. We're also showing that there's a relationship between proteins in the cerebral spinal fluid and how people's brains change and how their testing is affected by the levels of those proteins.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So do you have any challenges of getting people involved at all?
Yeah, sometimes having people come in, a lot of people who are interested in research may not necessarily be interested for the right reasons. They may be more looking for an answer for themselves. How am I doing? Am I getting worse? And it's always difficult because we're here to help, and we really want to help people and help them come to the answers with these things. But for people of that kind of background, we really need to encourage them to go see a neurologist so they can have more personalized care. Other challenges with getting people involved, sometimes, people decide that, that they want to, sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a moment.
Well, you were saying that people are looking for answers for themselves, and that...
Right.
Yeah, that just... So do they know ahead of time they're not necessarily going to be getting answers for themselves, correct?
Well, we have to stress that to people. We have to let them know that the answers that they might be able to acquire from the research are more of on an overall understanding of the brain as a whole, but not necessarily personalized.
So is there any education you give people ahead of time, or things they read, or kind of bring them in, do the tests, and move them on their way?
That's basically it. Yeah, I mean, we'd have an aim for further down the road, maybe providing some sort of reports of showing people if they've changed over time. But for the time being, it's more just about helping.
Yeah, that's great. And is it the Alzheimer's Association and other groups that are helping you in getting the word out?
Yeah, the Alzheimer's Association does host some of our advertisements out there, but a lot of the posting we have to do ourselves, using organizations or websites like Craigslist, putting up flyers in libraries and things around the Bay Area.
So again, I'm not sure if we even got you to say the website unless I missed it, but it doesn't hurt to say it again. So what's the website people would go to learn more about these studies?
Probably one of the best websites for us to go to would be just searching the Stanford Center for Memory Disorders. Mm-hmm. And then with a specific goal of looking into the Kirchner lab. So Jeffrey Kirchner being the principal investigator of the study. I think the website is kirchnerlab.stanford.edu.
And Kirchner spell how do you spell that?
Kerchner.
I've heard he's been around a while, hasn't he?
Yeah, Dr. Kirchner is an expert in aging and dementia here at Stanford. He's been in the Bay Area now for close to 10 years.
Yeah. And you've been doing this for a couple years now?
Yes, I have. I started working at Stanford in late 2011, initially with the intention of only being here for about a year, but I enjoyed the research and working with patients so much that I've been here now coming on 3.5 years. So
I'm going to put you on the spot here, Jeffrey. So what you haven't been at it that long, but you've gained a lot of knowledge in a short period of time. And those that are listening out there who may have a loved one already diagnosed with some form of dementia, any words of wisdom that you can give to them at all?
Words of wisdom. Well, to be patient. As if they didn't need to be told that.
Right.
I think it's, have hope that there is research being done in the area. We're learning new things about the brain every day, and that I think that they're not alone in this. There's a lot of great organizations out there to help and support, and if people are looking for that, I really encourage them to reach out. As far as research goes, we're doing our part, and we encourage people to support organizations like the Alzheimer's Association, which give funding to researchers and provide grants so we can keep doing what we do. I think that there is a light at the end of this tunnel, so I think if we just keep working through it, we can eventually find a way to navigate through this disease.
That's excellent advice and good news. That it's nice to hear from someone on the other end saying there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So that's great to hear. Jeffrey, thanks so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll have you back in the future as you get more involved in this study or others that are affecting the boomers, their parents, and others. We'd love to have you back in the future. And thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Frank. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been great. So Jeffrey Bernstein with Stanford, the Center for Memory Disorders, Stanford School of Medicine, Department of Neurology and Neurological Sciences. A lot of great things going on. Thanks for joining us. As always, keep your comments coming in, a lot of great ones, and we look forward to talking to you all soon. Be safe out there.